reason the eyewitnesses were able to see Jesus after Golgotha is because he never died on the cross. So whether or not Jesus himself or if someone else took him off of the cross early, or if he fakes his own death, it doesn't matter.
When the soldiers thrust their spear between Jesus' ribs, do you know what came out? Blood and water, which we now know is a description of pericardial effusion as a result of death by asphyxiation. This is not a condition anyone could fake. And so to answer your question, yes, it is my medical opinion that Jesus Christ died on that cross.
뾰로롱.
기자 정신이 투철한 기자 리 스트로벨. 우리 리는 기업의 비리를 밝혀내서 기자상을 받을 만큼 유능한 기자였습니다.
Lee, your work has given justice to families across the country. You with the Len H. Small Memorial Award for Community Service Journalism.
그리고 가족들이랑 근사한 외식을 즐기는데요.
I'm gonna give you dessert if you eat one more noodle. A little bit.
Good work.
그러나 이때
Sweetie?
Allie, what is it? Are you choking?
리의 딸 앨리슨이 목에 사탕이 걸려 숨을 쉴 수 없게 됩니다.
Everybody please just give her some space.
앨리슨은 금세 얼굴이 창백해지며 숨이 넘어가는데
Please call an ambulance. It's gonna be all right. Baby, I'm right here.
그런데 이때 누군가가 달려와서 앨리슨을 넘겨받아요.
Okay, just stay calm. Come on. Calm, honey. Can you do that?
이 여자의 이름은 LP, 인근병원의 간호사였습니다.
Cough, baby. Cough, baby.
그래서 리네는 LP에게 감사해야 하는데요.
Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you.
I don't know how to thank you.
하지만 LP는 예수님에게 그 영광을 돌립니다.
Well, it's not luck. It's Jesus.
그러자 리의 아내 레슬리는 눈빛이 달라지죠.
Who's Jesus?
사실 리 부부는 무신론자였습니다.
You know how mommy and daddy read you stories at night? Believing in God is kind of like that. It's really nice stories. But we are atheists. Atheists don't believe in God.
Good night.
특히 리는 딸마저도 종교가 없길 바랄 만큼 철저한 무신론자였어요.
I thought we said we weren't going to force anything on her.
She asked.
Right, so as long as it's what we believe.
Are we really gonna go around on this again, Les?
리는 목에 칼을 들이밀어도 눈에 보이는 팩트가 중요한 기자였기 때문입니다. 그러다 리는 사건을 하나 맡게 되는데요.
Yeah, there's a cop shooting this weekend, Inglewood. Officer survived. See what you can get me on the shooter, James Hicks.
Officer Kablinsky.
어떤 전과자가 경찰을 총으로 쐈는데 이 사건에 대해 알아보라는 것이었습니다.
No, the deal not while it's under investigation.
Look, I read your report. Come on. Give me a little something off the record. Why do you think he did it, huh?
딱 봐도 뻔한 사건이라 리는 대수롭지 않게 범인 힉스를 만나는데
Mr. Hicks, I'm Lee Strobel with the Chicago Tribune. I'd like to talk to you about the shooting.
어이없게도 힉스는 자신이 무죄라고 우겨대요.
He put his hands on me, so I fought back like anyone would. We go at it for a bit, then a gun goes off.
Whose gun?
I don't know. Like I told you, I was drinking that night. It was fuzzy.
야 뭐야 기억이 안 난대. 거기다가 힉스가 범인이라는 증거는 너무나도 명확했습니다.
If you didn't shoot him, then who did?
My old lady kicked me out that night. I got a little crazy, you know, fired off around at the building. But I didn't aim it at nobody or hurt nobody. I tossed my piece in the bushes when Kablinsky rolled up on me.
That's it.
I tossed it in the bushes.
야 이놈 거짓말도 제대로 해야지 이게 무슨 개소리야.
Sir, I am trying to help you here, and nothing that you've told me is going to change the evidence that's stacked against you, which right now is pretty overwhelming.
What you talking about? You don't know me.
아 됐어 너 범인 맞아. 한편 리의 와이프 레슬리는 감사한 마음에 LP를 찾아가고
Leslie?
Yes, hi. What if you hadn't been there?
There is no what if with God.
You're so sure. How can you be so sure?
Do you really want an answer to that?
자연스럽게 레슬리는 LP를 따라 교회에 가게 돼요. 교회에서 레슬리는 마음의 평온을 찾게 됩니다.
And when you're ready, I promise you, he'll be right there waiting for you with open arms.
Alfie.
She invited me to her church and I went.
그러나 교회에 갔다는 말을 들은 리는 레슬리를 탐탁치 않아 해요.
Okay,
Yes.
this is not us. Whatever this is, okay, it is not us.
Don't
About
say
whatever
anything then.
this
Just
is.
listen to what I'm trying to say because I'm trying to.
We just give it a break, Les.
그래서 리는 곧장 장인어른을 찾아가는데 바로 와이프를 환불받기 위해 아닙니다. 장인어른인 줄 알았는데 기자 선배님이었어요.
I feel like I can get through to her before she gets too deep.
Are you sure it's not something you can live with?
Yes, I'm sure. I'm not going to lose my wife and my kids to something that I can't even...
그런데 선배는 리에게 한 가지 제안을 합니다.
And I know that Leslie is a reasonable woman.
이 철저한 무신론자에게 신이 없다는 것을 증명해 보라고 해요.
As always, it comes down to facts and truth. Now, you present her with the facts, and I'm sure she will find her way back to the truth.
Kenny, let me ask you something.
이에 리는 기자 정신을 발휘해서 이것을 증명해내기로 합니다. 그 첫 번째 타겟은
Where would you start?
예토전생 다음 가는 예수의 부활이었죠.
The entire Christian faith hinges on the resurrection of Jesus. If it didn't happen, it's a house of cards. He's reduced to a misunderstood rabbi at best. Worst, he's a lunatic who was martyred.
야, 이거 너무 쉬운 거 아니야? 사람이 부활을 어떻게 해?
You sure you want to hand me that gun?
I'm pretty sure you're not going to be able to pull the trigger.
그리고 리는 자신감을 안고 전문가를 찾아가는데
I read your book, and there's something that stuck out to me. How can anyone talk about historical evidence for the resurrection when the resurrection by nature is a miracle?
그는 바로 게리 하버마스 박사였습니다.
Correct, but we don't have to prove a miracle to prove a resurrection.
그런데 리는 예수의 부활에 대해 생각보다 많은 기록이 있다는 것을 알게 되죠.
The resurrection narrative is more legend than it is history.
Really? Well, not according to historical records. Did you know that we have a report of the resurrection with specific eyewitnesses that dates all the way back to within months of the resurrection itself? That source also adds that 500 separate people saw Jesus at the same time. We're not talking decades or centuries after the cross, Mr. Strobel. It's months.
취재를 하면서 리는 이상한 점을 발견하는데요.
I want to go back to something that you said earlier. You said that that this was personal to you. Why is that?
I lost my wife Debbie to cancer.
이 하버마스 박사 또한 자신처럼 철저한 무신론자였던 겁니다.
But in my time of loss, it made me confront my beliefs. And that is where I found my true comfort. Because I know that I'm going to see my wife again someday.
야, 이거 안 되겠어. 사람 불러야 돼. 아, 사람이 없구나. 그럼 내가 해야 돼. 예상과는 다른 답변을 듣자 리는 본격적으로 예수의 부활의 허점을 찾기로 하는데요. 리는 역사학적으로 돌파구를 마련하고자 합니다. 그래서 리는 저명한 고고학자이자 지금은 종교에 귀의한 마르케즈 신부를 찾아가기로 해요.
I'm a bit surprised given your stellar reputation that you just gave all that up for...
이제 리는 본심을 드러내고
It just seems to me that for the better part of 2,000 years, Christianity has been creating these rituals and these rules. You know, they've erected these elaborate and often expensive cathedrals. And all of that to support a faith that I believe is ultimately built on sand.
리는 예수의 부활에 대한 수많은 필사본들이 신빙성이 없다고 말합니다.
A number of people claim to have seen Jesus after his crucifixion, and some of them even wrote it down. But I guess my question is, how can we be sure of the reliability of those manuscripts?
그러자 마르케즈 신부는 무언가를 들이미는데
Is this real?
That's as real as the Macedonian dirt that I dug it up.
그것은 우리가 잘 알고 있는 그리스 트로이 전쟁의 필사본이었죠.
That is one of 1,565 copies in existence today.
마르케즈 신부는 반대로 되묻습니다. 그리스 트로이 전쟁은 어떻게 믿느냐고 말이에요.
So, 800. So that's 1,100 years between this copy and the original. Yes.
Correct. There is only one ancient collection of writings that has more authenticated copies than the Iliad. Can you guess what that is?
You're going to tell me the Bible.
The New Testament.
How close is that to the original?
Less than 30 years. We only have 100 copies of Sophocles, 7 copies of Plato's Tetralogies, and only 5 copies of anything by Aristotle. In fact, if you laid the surviving copies of Aristotle one on top of the other, they would make barely 4 feet. You do the same with surviving copies of the New Testament, the stack would be a mile high. Nothing else in history even comes close. How is that for reliable?
야, 이렇게 얘기하니까 뭐라 할 말이 없네. 하지만 리는 예수의 부활을 믿을 수가 없었습니다.
You're saying that the historical Christ is identical to the religious basis for Jesus Christ.
그래서 미친 듯이 허점을 찾아다녀요. 그러면서 아내 레슬리와의 사이는 점점 더 멀어지게 되죠.
I'm not the one who went and changed. You did that. I don't know. Maybe I wasn't enough for you. Maybe you had to go find yourself a new man.
What?
Yes, you're cheating on me with Jesus.
You're hilarious.
한편 리는 힉스 총격 사건의 실마리를 찾아내고
It says here that Koblinski was Hicks's arresting officer 6 times. Obviously, these guys knew each other. In fact, when I interviewed Hicks, he slipped up. He called Koblinski by his first name.
So, what's your theory?
My theory is that Hicks is an informant for the gang task force and Koblinski is his handler, which means a gang member just shot his own handler and for some reason Chicago PD is covering it up.
야, 힉스가 경찰의 정보원이었는데 경찰을 쏜 거였구나.
I can't run that unless you get me a source inside the PD.
You gotta give me something.
그런데 이대로 간다면 힉스는 이전에 경찰과 협상한 건이 있기 때문에 힉스를 봐줄 수밖에 없는 상황이었습니다.
I hear they're gonna knock Hicks's time down to petty time in county. They're gonna put him back on the streets. They're offering Hicks a plea to keep his mouth shut. Now, you don't want that. Now, all I need to run this story is one source from the squad.
그리하여 리는 힉스가 경찰의 뿌락지였다는 것을 신문 일면에 싣고
But with recent information,
힉스는 리의 기사 때문에 가명 없는 15년형을 받게 돼요.
at my discretion, I'm sentencing you to a minimum of 15 years at the Joliet State Prison. Bailiff, take him away.
Mr. Hicks, guilty, huh?
We all guilty of something reported, but I ain't guilty of this.
Okay, so then why not maintain your innocence? Why cop a plea?
Your story didn't give me no choice, did it? Did your story give me a choice?
그러나 이 와중에도 리는 예수 부활의 허점을 찾아내려고 최선을 다하는데요. 리의 다음 타겟은 바로 예수의 부활을 받다던 500명의 존재 가능성이었습니다.
Hey, just because they said they saw Jesus doesn't mean they actually did.
리는 이 500명이 환각 상태에 빠졌다고 생각했던 거예요.
Resurrection, maybe they're delusional. You know what I mean? Maybe they only thought they saw Jesus. Or maybe it was like mind control.
그래서 이번에는 작정하고 심리학자를 찾아보는데
Find me a good psychologist to interview. A psychologist, that's right. A guy with a lot of academic street cred, knows the human mind better than God does.
이번에 취재할 심리학자는 무려 미국 정신분석가 협회 회장 로버타 박사였죠.
Dr. Roberta Waters, president of the American Association of Psychoanalysts, agnostic.
Agnostic.
거기다가 로버타 박사는 리보다 더 철저한 무신론자였습니다.
Dr. Waters.
그러나 로버타 박사는 리에게 뜻밖의 대답을 하고
As much as I would like to help a fellow skeptic, what you're proposing is completely impossible.
아무리 자신이 무신론자라도 500명이 같은 환영에 빠지는 것은 불가능하다는 심리학적 추론이었어요.
Suggestion can be very profound, but it's one thing to be mesmerized into making animal noises. It's quite another for 500 people to have the same dream. To be honest, that would be an even bigger miracle than the resurrection itself.
야, 이게 부활보다 더한 기적이래.
If Jesus recovered from his injuries, that solves that problem. All these people could have easily seen him, yes?
Yes, but I'm afraid that's not a brain issue. You need to speak to a medical doctor.
그런데 어떤 경찰이 리를 찾아오고
Yeah, you have a visitor.
바로 이번에 힉스의 총을 맞았던 경찰이었습니다. 이번 일로 영웅이 된 경찰 아저씨는 리에게 감사하다는 인사를 하러 왔는데요.
You know, say thanks for the story, for telling the truth.
Yeah, well, it's my job, and in this case, my pleasure.
Thanks again, Strobel.
Yeah, feel better.
리는 이참에 힉스 사건 자료를 마무리 정리에 들어가죠. 하지만 이때 리는 뭔가 놓치고 있다는 것을 깨닫게 됩니다. 경찰의 총상이 마치 펜에 잉크가 터지듯이 났던 거예요. 이에 리는 또다시 증거물을 훑어보러 가는데
A couple years back, I was doing research on concealed weapons, people disguising firearms as cigarette lighters, belt buckles.
That's a pen. What is that?
Spent shell casing. That, Mr. Marlowe.
야, 근데 뭐야? 펜이 총이었어?
That is a 22 caliber handgun. Look at that right there. That's what shot Koblinski.
This is illegal for any cop to carry a weapon like this while on duty.
그렇습니다. 펜총이라는 불법 소지 무기를 가지고 있던 경찰 아저씨가 사고로 펜총이 발사되자 힉스에게 뒤집어 씌운 것이었습니다.
Unbelievable. He's actually innocent. He's wrongfully prosecuted is what he is. You got to get back to that judge. You got to get Hicks out of lockdown.
그래도 양심이 있던 리는 진실을 바로잡으려 하고
How could you miss this?
Koblinski played me.
And you put the integrity of this paper at risk, not to mention putting an innocent man in harm's way.
Now go write me a retraction.
결국 힉스의 무죄가 증명되지만 경찰의 뿌락지라고 알려진 힉스는 교도소에서 오지게 처맞은 뒤였죠.
Mr. Hicks. Mr. Hicks, it's Lee Strobel. Just wanted to say that
야, 이 미친놈이 병 주고 약 주고 있어.
that's my fault. I missed the truth. I'm sorry. I didn't see it.
You didn't want to see it.
그리고 리는 자신이 철석같이 믿었던 진실이 틀릴 수도 있다는 것을 뼈저리게 깨닫게 됩니다.
Don't start with me, Kenny.
Stop blaming me and the church and God and do your job. Stack up the evidence, follow the facts, and write the story, win or lose.
이어서 리는 예수 부활의 마지막 허점, 예수는 애초에 죽지 않았다는 것을 밝히러 의학 박사를 찾아가는데요.
That's fine. I appreciate your time. So my line of attack is this: the reason the eyewitnesses were able to see Jesus after Golgotha is because he never died on the cross.
Because if he doesn't die, there's no resurrection, yes?
That's right. So whether or not Jesus himself or someone else took him off of the cross early, or if he fakes his own death, it doesn't matter. It completely discounts every aspect of the resurrection.
Right, the swoon theory.
Yeah, but he passed out. He didn't die.
그런데 박사님은 뜻밖의 대답을 하고
But the swoon theory is rubbish.
Rubbish. Is that a medical opinion?
You know, it is, actually.
예수는 의학적으로 죽었던 게 확실하다고 단언하고 있었던 것이죠.
Come with me. The stress on Jesus' chest muscles would have locked his lungs into the inhale position. Right? So in order to let the breath out, he would have had to shove himself up using his spiked wrists and feet, scraping his shredded back against the wood of the cross, and then sagged back down again in order to draw his next breath, which he would have had to have done over and over and over again until utter exhaustion just made it impossible. And then inevitably,
he dies. In theory, but let's remember, these soldiers, they're not doctors. Okay, so maybe they took him off the cross and they thought he was dead, but in fact he wasn't.
Medical doctors, they were professional killers, right? And they were quite good at their jobs. They had to be. If a prisoner escaped alive, they themselves would be executed. Mr. Strobel, the crucifixion of Jesus is one of the best attested events in the ancient world. And, if you will, the final nail in the coffin, the swoon theory, is this. When the soldiers thrust their spear between Jesus' ribs, do you know what came out? Blood and water, which we now know is a description of pericardial effusion as a result of death by asphyxiation. This is not a condition anyone could fake. And so to answer your question, yes, it is my medical opinion that Jesus Christ died on that cross.
거기다가 박사는 리에게 반박할 수 없는 자료를 보여주는데
Did you trust the Journal of the American Medical Association?
Of course, it is a stellar scientific journal, you and I will admit that. On the physical death of Jesus, clearly the weight of the medical and historical evidence indicates that Jesus was dead before the wound to his side was inflicted. Accordingly, interpretations based on the assumption that Jesus did not die on the cross appear.
야, 뭐야? 미국 의학협회 학술지에서 예수의 죽음을 인정했어.
Doc, I gotta tell you, you're not telling me what I hope to hear today.
의외로 쉽게 찾을 수 있을 것 같던 부활의 허점. 과연 리는 본인이 원하는 답을 찾아낼 수 있을까요?
Hey, it's me. Everything all right? Kids okay?
Sweetheart, it's your
father.
예수는 역사다. 누구보다 철저한 무신론자 기자 리가 예수의 부활은 허구다라는 것을 밝히려는 여정을 다룬 영화입니다.
I'm trying to assassinate Christianity. You sure you want to hand me that gun?
마냥 전설처럼 느껴지는 2000년 전 이야기를 역사학적으로 접근한 점도 흥미로웠고요. 의학적으로 접근했을 때도 의외의 답변을 들을 수가 있었습니다.
Yes, it is my medical opinion that Jesus Christ died on that cross.
그런데 영화가 무신론자 입장에서 허점을 찾고 있거든요. 그래서 마냥 종교 영화다라고 생각하기보다는 크리스찬도 그렇지만 종교가 없는 분들에게도 생각할 거리를 던져주는 영화라고 할 수 있겠네요.
What? Yes, you're cheating on me with Jesus.
저는 교회도 가고 절에도 가고 성당에도 가는 근본없는 강아진데도 소재 자체가 굉장히 흥미로웠던 것 같습니다. 그래서 구불이 이렇게 예수는 역사다를 한번 핥아봤으니까요. 리뷰 보고 재밌으셨다면 한번 찾아보시는 것도 좋을 것 같습니다. 이상 무신론자 기자가 파헤치는 예수의 부활, 예수는 역사다였습니다.
One more thing. I'll be praying for you.
That's not even funny.
구린이들 쿡쿡 깎까? 어? 아직 안 갔어? 다음 영상도 보고 가세요. 구독, 좋아요, 멍멍. 알람 설정도 꼭 눌러주세요. 앙!